Dorothea, can you hear me?
Hi.
We're all Tanya today.
Right.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Good.
Yeah.
It's a Monday.
It's a rainy Monday.
Yeah, for
Are,
sure.
are you guys pretty wet?
No, it's been sprinkling on and off here in Medford. It hasn't been horrible, but I heard Klamath Falls was getting like a snow rain mixture this morning. It begins.
Well, actually, at about 6, I was out feeding the horses and it was nice. Stayed out a little bit longer because it had that little bit of humidity that
Mhm.
kind of makes you feel a little warmer.
The calm
But
before the
went
storm.
in, got ready for the day, and had to get my big hooded jacket on. So and all that hairspray for waste.
Right? I know. I was like, I'm just gonna let my hair be crazy today. I'm gonna
Oh,
let
you
it
have
be in
pretty
charge
hair.
of the
And
day.
I love how you always get it braided up so pretty.
Thank you.
It's like, yeah, I wish I could do that. I can do
I try.
others. I can't do my own.
Yeah. See, I can't do others. I can only
Really?
do my own. Yeah. I have a daughter that never, she was like, why can't you French braid? I'm like, ask your aunt. I can't do it.
So are we waiting for anybody else?
Well, yeah, usually there's about 5 or 6 people. I know with the
Okay.
holiday it might be a little weird. So I'll give it
Okay.
a couple minutes for people to come into the room.
Well,
And
there's Mason.
yeah, we'll do a quick intro for you and then you can get busy. And Dorothea just joined us in the Grants Pass office. So this is her first Ignite class. She's going to catch these next few before we take the break for the holidays.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Welcome, Dorothea. We've got Kendra.
Yeah. You're filling up.
Our
Um,
office filled up pretty quickly here in
our
Klamath.
office. Oh, in Klamath. Oh, yeah, you
Yeah.
guys got a big move in this week.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, they're all really great too. Big fan of Polly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so it is now officially 1 o'clock. I will stay on a couple minutes and let anyone into the waiting room as you start, but I wanted to just do a quick intro for Laura Knight, who is a solo agent in Klamath Falls and one of our culture representatives. She always is jumping in to create the culture in the office she wants to see, and we really enjoy that about her. And as usual, I encourage you guys to ask your questions, share what's working and not working, and make this class really informative and fun for everyone. Laura, you can go ahead and take it away, and I'll just hang out and let some people in if they pop on a couple minutes late.
Well, hello, everybody, and thanks for showing up today. And what we're going to do is just kind of go over the good part, which is getting to closing. So, and feel free if you have any questions, go ahead and unmute yourselves, or if we want to do a group convo as we move forward, that's fine by me. That's how we learn. And are we ready to get started? Are you guys using by chance the little get to close pamphlet that you can print out or no?
Yeah.
Okay, cool beans. All righty. So enjoy the show. Here we are. So you've already gone over making and receiving offers and negotiation tactics. And today we're going to focus forward to the sales process once you get an offer and how we get to close, because we like successful closes where it's win-win for everybody. And before we get going, do you guys want to talk about any of your daily successes? Anything that like last week that stood out that you went, woo, that's good? Any leads or getting to show homes or anything like that? Okay. So this is getting to a successful close because not all deals make it to closing. The best tactic is to be prepared and have the mindset of navigating this process successfully for your client. There are 6 core competencies you've learned earlier, hopefully earlier in the course. And the 5th one is coordinate the sale to closing. So this is whenever you set up all of your timelines and you prepare for the best case scenario and where risks are that might be hiccups along the way. So once you start setting those timelines, it really helps with risk mitigation. So always remember to apply best practices to avoid risk when possible, and identify ways to follow up after closing to build our business. So once you have, let's say you have the buyer and you close, just always stay in touch with them shortly after close, reach out. How's everything working out? Things to that point. And so today, start thinking about what you'll learn and consider what questions you might have and what we'd like to learn more about. So does anybody have questions right now? Has anyone ever sold or bought a house?
I got my first contract this last Friday, so I'm in the process of getting my first closing.
Well, that is exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Gonna put a feather in your cap and make you feel good. So, as you know, did I pop one too many? Real estate transactions aren't particularly trouble-free. It's a strenuous and trying time that requires all the attention and effort you can command. So, yeah, that you're just getting started. Once you get under contract, that's where the fun begins. So just as getting a lead doesn't make the person your client, getting under contract doesn't mean closing a deal or getting paid. There are several steps in the process where a deal can fall apart, and knowing how to manage the risks will help you take a contract to the closing table. So a lot of people work together to make the closing happen. As the realtor, you and your co-op realtor are the conductors and coordinate all the people and tasks that occur between the contract and the closing. It's likely also to be a time of high stress for your client. You do a lot of hand-holding. So your relationship and communication with your client is just as important as your relationships and communication with all other parties that make the deal happen. There's a reason that communication is one of our WI 4 C's, 2 T's, 2 TES. So you guys know what that is? The win-win: integrity, commitment, communication, creativity, customers, trust, teamwork, equity, and success. It's always good to reference that. So are you guys familiar with contracts, with the sales contract?
I am on the buyer side, but not really on the seller side. I've seen them, but yeah.
Well, listing contracts, that's between you and the seller. but in regard to the sales agreement, you're both the buyer side and the seller side are working off of the same agreement. So with the timelines, what people are you going to be using for, you know, the trades and things like that when you're under contract? How would you lay out your timeline? So Alex, we'll let you answer that one. How have you laid out your timeline going under contract?
I haven't laid out my contract yet. I just did it for 6 months, and I'm still getting coached through Jen still. So I'm like
Oh, so you
going through
got
the
a
process with her.
listing, not a sales agreement.
Or no, sale. It's a buyer's agreement, not a listing. It's a buyer's agreement.
Oh, okay. So so now you're
Yeah,
showing.
yeah. So I'm
You're able
showing
to show
houses,
homes.
and
Okay, super duper.
yeah,
Well, that's always fun too. I love showing homes. I mean, we legally get to go into strangers' homes and, you know, look around. So, so anyway, once you go under contract, you are defined by certain timelines and the contingencies in the contract. If you've ever bought or sold a home, you know that there are different steps that need to be taken as you progress forward. So does anyone know, once you get an accepted contract, what you would do for your buyers to, what their timeline might be?
Well, you would start, I mean, you could start looking at properties, looking into the different properties that fit that specific client's needs. Yeah, I mean, just
Well,
starting.
that's leading up to getting a contract. So
Well, I
once you
guess
go,
once you have it signed, then you can start like actually going into the properties and
right, right.
doing all that.
So
Yeah.
today's class is to teach you and get you ready for a successful close. So hypothetically, you already have a buyer and you've gotten an accepted contract. So there is a different deadlines throughout that contract that you need to meet. And this prepares you for a successful closing. There's no closing, no, you know, no money. So, and then you get, you know, unhappy clients on both sides. So we really shoot to get to that closing. So upon an accepted contract, can you think of who else might be involved in that contract as you move forward? If not, I can just go ahead and run you guys through it.
A lender, if they need to get pre-approved.
Well, you would already be pre-approved. So for the buyer, what you set up on your timeline, and it would, pardon my scribblies, but you would start writing down your timeline on what you would need to do. And you would need to let the lender know. So once you send an agreed contract to the lender, they can start working on ordering an appraiser. So that's one timeline. You also need to make sure your buyer knows they need to put that earnest money deposit into escrow. And the listing agent is the one that opens up escrow traditionally. Sometimes if I'm a buyer's agent and I know the listing agent's busy, I'll say, hey, do you mind me opening? And I just send the title company the contract as well. So you take that contract and you send it to the lender, and the title company gets a copy of that contract as well. Then you need to make a timeline, which is usually 3 to 5 business days, to get the earnest money deposit to the title company. So it goes into escrow. Then at the same time, all in the very beginning, then what you do is you also give them a list of home inspectors and have them order up the home inspection. once you get that scheduled, then you contact the listing agent and you let them know, hey, John's going to be over at the house on this day at this time. Is that going to work for you? And so that's another timeline. Now, when you write a contract, a sales agreement, and you've got the buyer, make sure you allow yourself enough time to get an inspector in, to have the inspection, and then you follow up afterwards. Once you get that inspection, if there needs to be a repair addendum written out, because you're still working within a timeline. And it's very important for your buyer that if you're going to call something to be repaired, that you do it within that timeline. If you don't, then the seller can just say, I'm sorry, we don't have to do anything because you missed your timeline. So, and then throughout the entire time, you think about what the next move is, but you let your buyer or your seller know at the same time. And that's what helps you get to the end. Any questions on that?
So the timeline starts when you put the deposit money down, or when you're in contract with
When you have
the
both
buyer.
sides come into agreement. So let's say you send an offer on a Friday and you don't get an accepted offer until Monday. Tuesday is when your timeline begins. But on Monday, prep your buyer, because once you get used to the process, it's going to be pretty natural. But for a buyer, and especially if they're a first-time buyer, it's going to be like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh coming at them. So in your buyer presentation, or when they finally, Alex, so next week your buyers, they go and they find the perfect house and you get to write a contract for them. If you can, get a little cheat sheet for them and let them know, this is what you can expect, and these are our timelines. And then it's your job to make sure, hey, did you get that earnest money check in? Hey, we really need, well, they'll tell you which inspector to order, but you order the inspection because you're the professional. And also at the time of inspection, find out if your buyer wants to do a walkthrough with the inspector, or if they can't, if they want you to go do a walkthrough with the inspector so he can tell you XYZ of what he found.
Okay. And just really quick, I actually had another agent tell me they're in the waiting room. They just texted me trying to get in.
Oh,
I
okay.
just got a message. I was like, oh, sorry.
See, and it's on my screen, but I'm so focused in talking face to face with everyone, I don't even pay attention to that. Sorry. Thank you for your patience.
Away, I've been away, but I'll keep running.
Your music's playing.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Welcome. I'm Laura.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay, and then just to let you know, a few other people that you'll get to know through your contracts are your buyer, first-time buyer. They may not know they need to get an insurance binder. You might be buying a rental, so you'll deal with property managers, tenants, movers. You might have to get contractors involved if there's something needs to be repaired. And believe it or not, now and again, family pops in. Dun, dun, dun. But these are all people that you embrace and you stay professional with, and you stay in communication with them as much as you possibly can throughout the term of the contract. And then let's say you have a successful closing, stay in touch with those contractors and don't be shy about asking them for leads. Hey, I really like the work you've done on my buyer's home. If you ever have anyone that's looking for a listing or buyer's agent and they're not represented already, please have them give me a call. Give them your card. Anyway, just a little side note. I squirrel a lot, so thanks for staying with me. So we've already gone through the timelines. So I don't know, the inspector list. All you need are two. If you have several, that's great. There's 3 inspectors that I usually call up. I have my one favorite, but he's usually booked 2 weeks out. If I need somebody in a pinch, then there's 2 other guys that I'll call in. And then there's a couple that I just don't call because their reports are like 100 pages long. And it's a lot for a buyer, especially a first-time buyer, to sift through. So you'll see we have the inspector list to the buyer, your earnest money, and inform your listing agent on the inspection schedule, the inspection when it happens. Here's send inspection response if you are going to ask for any repairs to be made. Here's your appraisal. And it's usually the listing agent or the homeowner that opens the door for the appraiser. But there have been times that I'll step in and I'll open the door or have the door unlocked for them with no contact and just, you know, do what I can do to help. And final walkthrough. With the final walkthrough, make sure you get it cleared with the listing agent and the seller. Some people want to do final walkthrough 2 days before closing. And, you know, the seller may not have showered for a day. They've got boxes everywhere. They're trying to get the house clean and ready. And they just, some sellers don't want anybody to come in at that time. It's a huge distraction. So it's always best to get ahead of it. And at the time that you know, first go under contract, find out if your buyer is going to want to do a walkthrough. Let's say in the beginning, they say no. They get 2 weeks in and say, you know what, maybe we do want to do a final walkthrough so I can measure if my couch is going to fit through the front door, or the refrigerator, or what have you. So that's just another form of communication. It's not a document, but it is a communication. And if you want to reinforce it, put it into the sales agreement. Buyer wishes to do walkthrough 1 day prior to closing. So that's something to keep in mind. Any questions?
Can you still ask to do the final walkthrough if you don't write it on the offer?
The listing agent, yeah, they can say, hey, the sellers are, you know, they're not going to entertain anybody walking through because we're moving out. We have movers. It's a rainy day, blah, 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 but the house will be clean by the time that we get out. You know, so it's a lot of people are some people can be under the impression that it's automatic. Never assume that you'll just be able to do a walkthrough. Confirm it. And if it's not in the contract, see if you can confirm it by writing in a text or an email to the listing agent. Please confirm with your seller that we can do a walkthrough on this day before closing.
Got it. But most of the time you should write it on the offer, right?
Yeah, and there's a little section there that you can write it if your buyer wants to do that.
Got it.
Sometimes buyers will say, no, I'm good. I'm fine with that.
Mhm.
And then when they get a week out, they're like, oh, can I go by and just do a quick walkthrough because I've forgotten, you know, because people get busy. They're not going to be in the house all day, every day. So they may want to double check it, you know, is my furniture going to fit? Will my appliances come in? Or if let's say you had, there was a lot of stuff in the house and they just want to make sure all that stuff is removed, you know? So and that is, everything in the contracts are negotiable. We do have the contracts, but everything on there is negotiable. So if you think it's something that it might be a sticky wicket, go ahead and put it in the contract under, I forget which page it's on. I want to say it's like 5, and it's under additional comments, and you can just put something in there. If it doesn't have anything to do with finance, because that has its own little dialogue box to fill in. All right. So yeah, just Common interaction points, communication deadlines, everybody's included, lender buyer communication, communication of a list or lists of title companies, inspectors, insurance agents, scheduling and communication with inspectors and listing agents, sending amendments and inspection reports to the other side. That's your interaction. This is your contract right here, and you want to be on top of it as much as possible for a successful close. They're very important. One is communication. Sometimes you'll run into an agent that for whatever reason, they're not in communication. In a case like that, let's say there's a natural disaster, or they're down in Mexico and can't get a cell service or something. Then you can always go to their principal broker, and not in you do it because you need an answer quickly, not to say, oh, this agent isn't answering their phone, because everybody has circumstances in life. But if you need to get an answer quickly, never be shy. You can go to that principal broker or a reviewing broker and call up and say, hey, I'm worried about Susie. She hasn't picked up, and I know that she was traveling. I need a decision if you can pull that contract up and give me an answer. So don't be afraid of that. The same with lenders. If you're a week in and they haven't ordered the appraisal yet, call that lender. How come we haven't gotten anybody assigned yet? Because we're getting closer, and it's imperative that we close on this day. So as a realtor, and you do it politely, professionally, but you have every right to go and ask questions of those other people. Same with the inspector. If the inspector has something in the report that doesn't make sense, hey, John, what does this mean on page 5 about the outlet? But the way that they break down their inspection reports really helps spell it out. But sometimes you just can't picture it. So give them a call or send them an email. Communicate that. Any questions?
I mean, there are times that I reach out to the listing agent, like I call 3 times, didn't pick up, left a voicemail, didn't get back, sent an email, heard nothing back. So I wasn't sure if I should call the principal broker or his office or not, but like, how long should I wait?
Yeah, call the principal broker and say, I'm concerned about, John is I've reached out and I'm not hearing back. Is he all right? Okay, he's fine. So can you help me on this?
Mhm.
And it's because it's not throwing anybody under the bus, but there are things that happen. Usually, if you're under contract, that agent is going to get back with you. Like today, for 2 hours, my phone is off. And so I know when I turn it back on, there's going to be at least one text or message to me or a phone call with a question. So people understand, now if I go a day or 2 without responding, then shame on me.
Mhm.
So, but yeah. If you've given it an earnest try and no response, reach out. And again, just what I went over, is this an act of communication or a document? And to whom or from whom is the document going? What's the best pathway? What is the plan to follow up after a document has been sent to the responsible party? So even whenever I put together, I've talked to the listing agent, hey, I'm going to write this up. I get it written up. My buyer doesn't sign until 10 o'clock at night. I'm not going to call that agent. I'll just send a text, offer sent, check email. So in the morning they can get to it. Does that make sense? And then also as agents, you get to dictate how late you're going to answer your phone or how early you're going to answer your phone, and the urgency. If you're making a deal, I've worked with agents, even though I do wake up early, it doesn't mean I'm cheerful and pleasant to speak with. So if you're calling me before 8 a.m., I may start, if it's a common habit, I may drag my heels before I respond, or I will wait until 8 o'clock or 9 a.m. before I make a response. But if you're texting me at 6:30 and it's not an emergency, you're going to have to wait. But if somebody calls me at 3:30 and says there's somebody breaking into your listing, yes, I'm going to be there in 10 minutes. So, but just keep in mind, it's at your discretion on how you set your schedule and your timing. Any questions? We've gone over all of this. And then it's mostly the same for the seller, but just a little bit different. So we'll just hop on over to the next slide. And again, what is the first thing my seller needs? Your seller's you're going to open escrow if you're representing the seller. You're going to get escrow opened. You will communicate to them that the buyer's going to put in their earnest money to escrow, that they will be ordering up the inspection. And if your seller is paying for any of the inspections, then if they have a preference to inspector, and then you order that up. Let's say you have, you've got a rural property that's on septic and well, and the buyer has asked the seller to pay to have it pumped. And of course, we need to do the state water requirements. So you get that lined up. You let them know this is what the water test is going to cost. This is, when the guy's going to come and pull the water sample. And this is the place where you send the funds to before we get the report back. Also, let's say they're just getting a pest and dry rot report. You need to let your seller know, and it's all in the contract, who's going to pay for what. But you can talk that over with the buyer's agent. And if you're the buyer's agent, you can talk that over with the seller's agent on who's going to call, do you have a preference of inspectors? Now, next after that, the buyer should let you know that the appraisal has been ordered, and they'll let you know when they're scheduled to arrive. If you haven't heard that, reach out and remind that buyer's agent, hey, did they order the appraisal? Or, hey, are you going to order inspections? Another thing that the seller has to do sooner rather than later is to get the seller property disclosures out, along with any lead-based paint disclosure or a wood burning insert, fireplace insert. All of those disclosures go at the same time. And let's see.
Do you have to let the listing agent know that, like, what the exact date for the appraisal?
You let them know when the appraiser is showing up so they can open the door and let the appraiser in, but you don't tell the listing side what the appraisal amount is, unless, of course, it's below. Let's say the offer is for $350 and the appraisal comes in at $340. Then you go to the listing agent and you say, hey, listing agent, the appraisal came in undervalued.
Mm-hmm.
So we are changing the terms to meet the value. Now the listing agent can go, no, this is what we agreed upon. So now your buyer has to come up with that additional $10,000 to make up the difference. So that is someplace that's negotiable. It's not a given that a seller's going to give up. And you learn in negotiations things such as it's really hard to make somebody buy something that's overpriced by $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
But you find nice, pretty words, and you find your leverage as much as possible to make that happen. most sellers are going to understand, but every transaction is an individual transaction with different personalities and different circumstances. So that's why any chance you get to sit in on conversations on how to negotiate and find leverage to get to a successful close, do yourself the favor and do that.
Got it. Thank
So also, when you're the listing agent, mark your listing as pending in the MLS. Inform your seller of the inspection schedule. And if you get a response from the buyers, let your seller know this is what they're asking on the repair addendum. Some things are going to be superfluous and some things are going to be material. And you got to think in your mind, which one is a material fact that any buyer is going to want to have done, and which ones are kind of just like, no, that's do it yourself type of thing. You know, they didn't like the switch plate covers because they didn't all match. Well, you can do that after you buy the house. But if it's something like a support beam is cracked, yeah, you want to have, just about any buyer is going to want that fixed. Make sense? So then after the appraisal, when you review the closing statements, now you're going to get those just a couple of days prior to closing. Make sure you're familiar with the closing statements. If you're not understanding how it reads, talk to the escrow team and ask them to break it down for you. Say, this is my first closing. What is line such and such? What does that mean? So I can explain it to my buyer or to my seller. But it's a lot of people, when they're buying or selling, they're relying on you to advocate for them. They get the final decision, but you can just say, hey, this is what's on here. This is the sales price. This is what they've put down. This is the prorated taxes, HOA fees, if there's any of that stuff. It's all lined out. Good? Everybody good on that one? Okay, same thing as with the sellers, communication of deadlines, communication of contract to other parties. Make sure you have your list, especially for your sellers, if contractors, movers, cleaners, any of that. And from the get-go, you want to send your contract to the title company because they can't really get started till they have everybody's names and contact information. The inspectors and also the inspection reports. Another thing that may happen is you get your title report and your buyer has a few days, I think it's 5 days, to review the title report. And if they're not satisfied with it, they can terminate the contract and get their earnest money back. Now, let's say it's 10 days after they have received the title report and their buyer has a change of mind and they try to get out of a contract and keep their earnest money. No can do, they forfeit their earnest money. Does that make sense? So there are some consideration points on the screen to think about as you plot the documentation points on your timeline. Add a D next time to items that require documents to be sent through. So I am old school, hence the white hair, and I like to write everything down. I keep a book and I write down my plan and on those timelines to make sure I stay on top of it. And it's a lot because let's say you've got 3 or 4 contracts going on and you're showing. that's a lot for your noggin to try to remember. So it's best if you write it in a book or in your file folder, anything like that. Or a really good one is our command system. They have the task system. So you can write into your command what tasks on what file need to happen, and you will get a reminder, and it will be on your command, and you can access that through the app as well. Anyway, just always ask yourself, what's the best pathway for communicating? And I ask my buyers and sellers, what is the best way? Call, text, or email, and in what order? So if I call you first and there's no answer, can I text you? And if I can't text you, what about an email? You know, and you are going to find that you'll have clients that they don't do anything electronically. So you get to drive and use ink and paper. Not a bad thing. It's just a thing. Any questions? So feel free to use this as a template, and then you can scribble in other things, notes that you want to keep to yourself on the timeline. And command will automate keeping up with these timelines through your opportunities. You can track the progress of your transactions, and you can set up client updates and checklists in the opportunities. Same with your marketing. It allows you to track everything involved in the transaction, from activity checklists and offer management to potential commission income and compliance. You can also customize your opportunity pipelines, and you can find helpful articles on this in your Ignite reference guide in answers.kw.com. And that website never gets old. No matter what, it is a wonderful reference, and you always get a chance. Are you guys playing around on your command, or are you using it regularly as much as possible? Bueller, anybody? Nope. All right.
I've been using it, just not as much as I would like, or as much as I would need to.
Yeah, well, you'll get there, and it's fun to play around with. And then there's also in the Connect all sorts of tutorials where you can go and just if you want to find out how other people have put together their listing presentations, you can take what they've shared and customize it to your business. But it's sometimes, if you don't know what questions to ask or how to build something out, you can go to Connect to KWU, Keller Williams University, and just plug in something you want to search, and it's great. Does anyone know what the AHAs stand for? Agents helping agents. And that's what sets Keller Williams apart from a lot of the other brokerages, be it big or small, is we're all here to help one another. And it really, in the end, it makes us all stronger. So with this class so far, are there any helpful takeaways that you can take from today so far? Okay, here comes a fun one. Best practices and risk avoidance. Who can tell me something about risk avoidance?
Making sure you're within compliance during transactions.
It is the vulnerabilities within a contract. So risk and best practice goes hand in hand, because you always want to toe the higher path. You want to do the very best you can and be as professional as possible. Sometimes you can see potential risk, and you want to do your best to avoid that through communication And if ever you're up against something, go to your principal broker or to your coach and say, hey, I've got an issue. How do I maneuver around this without alarming my client and keeping the deal moving forward? So let's just use a low appraisal, and so how do you'll go through negotiations on what is going to be the best for your client, be it if you have the buyer or the seller. I've had sellers that were just adamant. No, they said that they were going to pay this much. We're going to make them pay this much. Well, they don't have that much, so they have this much put down. So again, that's a door for negotiation. So try to think those scenarios out before you contact your client. Ask for help within your office as much as you possibly can. So this way you can kind of brainstorm and do what, we're still looking for a win-win. Does that make sense? So you've worked really hard to get to this point in a transaction. You should avoid risk by acting and anticipating any potential issues that could arise. Some best practices to avoid risk may include communicate clearly and often. That could even be the earnest money deposit. It could be the title report. Communicate with everyone involved in that step of the transaction. Copy assistants who are involved along the main party. Some people will have a transaction coordinator or a TC. And if so, and if that agent says, please send all communication to my TC, copy that person on it as well. So this way, that that agent and their transaction coordinator got the documents. Because that agent might get busy and forget to tell the TC, or the TC may have missed it. So, just cover all bases. Set expectations up front. Do you need the inspection response the next day? If so, let's say you schedule an inspector and they are going to show up on the 13th. You need to let them know, I need that. Can you have that report to me no later than midday on the 14th? Because my expiration date is on the 15th at 3. So I need to, jump on that and see if there's any repairs and get it going on. And then as well as, let's say you're representing the seller, you get a repair addendum. You need to tell your sellers, we need to, what do you want to act on? What are we saying no to? And how much time are we going to need to get this done? So that's when you call in contractors and say, how soon can you get here? Because we're, in the middle of a transaction, we're due to close in 2 weeks and we need to get this done. Can you come out and repair the roof within 3 days? Can you send somebody out? So those types of things. If not, you need to write an addendum and to extend closing date, and you need to let everybody know that, hey, we're extending closing date due to repairs. And like in our weather right now, to try to get any roof repairs probably won't happen for a few more months. So in a case like that, then you try to negotiate, you get a bid on the work, and you try it. One way to do it is try to negotiate. If we bring the price of, the sales price down to accommodate the extra cash going to roof repairs. And in some cases that will work. And again, stay professional, even if others don't. A person yelling at you does not force you to yell. The best way to control the situation is to lower your voice. And I think we've all probably been in heated situations where you're like, oh boy, if I could throat punch you right now, I would. But we don't. We find nice words and we go, this is just a moment. And that could be the nicest person in the world. We don't know what's going on in their life, or how maybe they got their, hind end chewed by their client. You don't know. So when people are yelling, don't try to escalate. Don't take it personally. I know it's hard because you're there. but just think, I don't know what's going on the other side. I do know I'm not going to add any fuel to that fire and say, hey, one good way if somebody is ranting is just say, oh, hey, I'm getting a call. Can I give you a call back, or can I meet up with you in about 10 minutes? And usually if you can buy yourself 10 minutes, an hour, it really makes a difference. And then this way you can kind of compose yourself as well. But it's real estate isn't for everybody. It's a contact sport. So you've got to, just find the best way to be your best self in spite of it. Okay. Any questions so far?
I have one quick question.
Yes.
So if you have a warranty, like a home warranty, and you want the seller to pay for your buyer,
Yeah.
do you order for them or they will take care of it themselves?
What you will do is, for starters, to get the home warranty, it needs to be agreed upon in the sales agreement
Mm-hmm.
or in an addendum, but both parties need to come to an agreement on who's paying for it.
Okay.
And then you can talk to the home warranty company and let them know, this is my client, this is who's paying, this is the closing date, and all of the escrow information. And yes, please do that for your client, because everything's coming at them quickly, and that's not it's not part of their daily practice. So it is part of your daily practice. And it's nice, that's another vendor that's really good to know.
Okay. So basically, even if I say like the plan and everything, what company and the price, and if they accept the offer, after they accepted it, I should be calling
Once you get the escrow, yeah. Once you
Okay.
get the escrow number, you can call or online order the home warranty per the contract.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And here, we use First American mostly in Klamath Falls because we're a little bit of a rural area and we don't have a whole lot of home warranties, and they've served our community well. Call them and things get fixed. Okay, where is the deal at risk for falling apart? Want me to tell you? Sorry. Late deposit. Let's say you're 2 weeks in and you haven't received anything from the title company saying that they've gotten a deposit. That's enough to lose your contract. So if you've got the buyer, make sure. Now, some brokerages, they will get the earnest money and they will hold it in-house in trust. But if that's the case, then you want to see the receipt or the check. You need something coming from that other brokerage recognizing they've received the deposit. Another way a contract could fall apart is not being able to come to an agreement on the home inspection and any repairs that are needed. So that's whenever you lean into really good negotiation efforts. And in some instances, let's say you have the house is so beautiful, you get that inspection report and it's just one thing after another, after another, after another. It may be too much for your client. And, that's a professional opinion. In the end, it's up to your client, but you can always let them know, are you prepared to make all of these repairs on your own? Because the seller's not going to do it. I stand behind you on what you want to do, but please, take a moment and figure out if that's what you want to do. And again, with the appraisal, how are you going to negotiate moving to the end and getting to a successful close whenever there is a gap between offer price and the appraisal? And then best practices to keep a deal alive is pricing the home reasonably in your listing or on your offer. So, you know, for several years, prices just kept going up, 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 up. And then whenever the market started to slow down in its projection going up, a lot of sellers were anticipating that their house was still going to be going up, when really, you know, it might have gone up this much, but not this much. And that's what they were looking for. So I've done CMAs before for my clients listing. And if we'll just use 350 since that's an average. If I thought the house was valued at 325, but the seller wanted me to list it at 360, I would write a clause down at the bottom of the CMA that would say, this is my findings. This is where I think the house will sell at. I am listing the house at this amount per seller's request, or your own verbiage. But what that does is it doesn't have a seller come back on me saying, why haven't you sold my house? Well, because if you remember when I did the CMA, I was telling you like homes are only selling for 320, 325. And you wanted to be at 360 and the house just, you know, isn't there. Now, if you would like, we can bring the price down and go from there. You know, and you find your own words, you find your own way to communicate, and each seller is going to be different. Each buyer is going to be different. And I've also got buyers where it could be a brand new house and, you know, the builder is asking this price and they want to come in. They want to come in 50 low. And it's like, well, we can do that, but they may not even respond. And if we try to come back up, they may, again, just think, I don't want to deal with you. So these are ways that these are conversations that you need to have with your clients. You know, I can do this for you because essentially I work for you, but I am a professional and this is what I do. And this is my data. When you start presenting numbers to people and then you ask them questions, why, if you were the seller, would you do that? If you were the buyer, would you do that? To kind of get them thinking at the whole picture, because the name of the game is the seller has something they want to sell, and the buyer wants to buy something. So how do you get the two to meet? Seller wants to sell to move to be closer to their kids. The buyer wants to buy because they've been wanting to get in that neighborhood. How do we close that gap?
Covering all
let's see.
contingencies, hopefully.
Huh?
Covering all the contingencies, hopefully.
Right. And, you know, and people get excited and it's such a roller coaster. So you need to just, it's nice when you can just kind of ride that coaster with them, but know that you're the one that they're going to squeeze your hand and lean in on for the entirety of that contract. And I still have people that bought homes, you know, 5 years ago and still keep in touch because they have questions about certain things, not so much about the house, but you know, hey, the taxes changed in my neighborhood. Does that sound right? You know, before they agree to it. Or, hey, I want to change my insurance company. Who would you suggest? Things like
Yeah.
that. And I don't know, makes you feel good. So, and that goes along with accurately setting your client's expectations about the process and the costs that are associated at the beginning. So when you write a contract, let your buyers know these are going to be your out-of-pocket expenses. Same with your seller. These are going to be your out-of-pocket expenses with the inspections, if they're paying for any inspections, the water quality or water potability test, things like that. And you are going to have escrow fees. And you know, that's a different conversation in regard to commission. Yeah, all of this, the commission is negotiable. Escrow isn't. The same with the inspections, but sometimes you can always, some inspectors will give a discount for service members or EMTs, things like that. So anyway, just prepare them. That's the biggest thing. and communicating quickly and effectively about any issues that pop up. And let's say you get the report and you're like, oh my God, I'm sunk. Wait a minute before you start, kind of get a grip and get a conversation in your head before you have that conversation with your client. That make sense?
Yeah.
So always act in your client's best interest, even when it seems to conflict with your own. And once again, live the WI 4 C's 2 T's. Yes. Any ha-has right now? Made it through an hour of me jabbering, so that's pretty cool. Thank you. Haven't put anyone to sleep. That's a good thing. Next, we're going to talk about how you're going to turn a transaction into a client relationship that brings more business referrals and repeat business. We will also discuss how you can lead generate for more business by leveraging client reviews. We've already covered that all business is new, repeat, or referral business. Clients that feel like their experience with you was effortless and special are more likely to come back to you the next time they need to buy or sell a house. They are also more likely to refer others to you and write reviews, which will help generate new leads. So let's talk about how you can turn today's transaction into tomorrow's business. And also remember the command follow-up program and the touch campaign you leverage after a transaction will help you stay in close emotional proximity with your clients so that they think about you when they are ready to buy or sell again. And that is the key, is being front of mind, because some buyers or sellers are like, are they still in business? Or, a lot of realtors come and go. They may do a handful of transactions and then, move out of the area or something. So there's different ways. Have you gone over the different touches to keep in touch with your clients? A touch campaign, it's in the command system. Basically taking advantage of holidays, anniversaries, like anniversary of buying dates. And then just if there's any community events, you find reasons to reach out to those clients on a regular basis. They already know you, they've already worked with you. So it could be sending out cards, just a thank you card, or, happy spring, fall, winter, whatever. You find a way to keep in touch. If you're going to be doing an event, let's say you're doing a home show, go ahead and reach out to your clients. Another thing is make it a habit about every, 4 to 6 weeks, send a text out. Hey, just checking in. How's everything going? How have you been? I haven't heard from you. Another great way to keep business going is by referrals. And that is contractors you work with, people, if you go to the grocery store, the same person that you go through their checkout line, make sure that they know you're a realtor. Always share help with them. People love to talk about real estate. And then, of course, you have client reviews. You can ask them to give you a review. You ask them if you can put it into print. And then there's also different platforms. I send, a lot of my clients will put their reviews on realtor.com and also Zillow. So, I just ask them if you're happy with my service, please, please fill out a review. And if you're not happy with my service, please talk to me first and tell me where I could improve. And because sometimes it's a bumpy relationship and that happens, but it's not over. Nothing is ever over. You can go back and say, hey, if you honestly ask somebody, what can I do? Or what could I have done to make this transaction better? take notes, because you might walk away with that golden gem that will help you repeatedly from transaction to transaction. So don't be afraid of doing that. So transaction is not just the transfer of money and property or a commission check. Every transaction is a series of opportunities to be of service to your clients. When you give them excellent service and stay in close emotional proximity through follow-up and touch campaigns, they will reward you with repeat business, referrals, and great reviews. If you ever get a booth at the home shows, if you're doing any community activity, reach out to your clients. Even if it was somebody that you worked with 2 or 3 years ago, you guys are newer, maybe it's somebody that you work with now or you worked with in the past, let them know. Did you know I'm a realtor? And, we worked really well together. So if you know of anybody who's looking to buy or sell, and if they're not represented, I would love to meet with them, something just as casual as that. But there's opportunities everywhere, and it's your business, and you get to pick and choose how hard you work or how hungry you get. It's really, really up to you. So look for the opportunities because they are everywhere. Any questions? Again, ask for referrals at every conversation throughout the transaction with your buyer or seller. And that's common. Hey, you listed my house and my neighbor saw your sign, and please go over and talk to them. It's like, well, what's their number? No, they're expecting you. Go there now. And it's happened. So just be ready for that. And at the close of the transaction, hey, it's been a pleasure working with you. And, if you know of anybody else that is looking for an agent, please let them know I'm here. Any questions or conversation? Okay.
How have you gone about with like really tough buyers in a market that's way more expensive and out of budget? How do you go about those discussions with a buyer?
So you've got a buyer and they're wanting to look at houses above their budget?
Yeah. I've got a buyer who's like on both sides of the spectrum, because one, it's like we're looking at an abandoned property, and then two, it's like they're really interested in the house that's like 450, but they're not willing to go and look at financing options above 350. So it makes no sense to me. I mean, to me,
Well,
it would be dire if I'm looking for a home. Let's go for what's within range, and
right.
let's start strategizing there.
So if you know that they don't have the funds to get the 450 house, if it's a vacant house, I'll still show it, because every time you meet with that buyer, you form a tighter bond. They get used to seeing you, and no one likes to be told no. Now, if there's a family that's living in that home, I would suggest they wait for an open house or maybe a broker's open that you could take them to. But otherwise, I would, and I do this because there's sometimes people that want to look at a house and it's like, yeah, you're here, the house is here. And I do, and I explain what the emotional, the emotions that a seller goes through. We're going to go and take an hour out of their life. They're going to get the house super duper clean for us to go in. And you and I both know that, that it's not going to happen. Find pretty words, because you know your client, and find the pretty words to say, how would you feel if you were a seller and just had looky-loos that have no intention of buying the house? No, we're not there. And it's hard on the seller. Once you have listings, and every time somebody walks through that door, that soon as they leave, that seller's on the phone to the agent saying, what did they say? What did they say? Well, they couldn't afford it. I mean, why did you open the door? That's just me being snarky, but you find your own way to get through that. And then say, but I thought we were at 350, you know?
Mhm.
So, and there's no way that they're gonna cut, how are we gonna close that gap? Because you're all in at 350 and this house is 450. So,
Mhm.
and you'll find a way to get there. But if it's vacant, yeah, because I want to be with that buyer as much as possible and build more of a relationship with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Great question, by the way, and thank you. So anybody else? Any questions, ahas, anything?
No.
Okay, and we're gonna go post-close follow-up. So this is your smart plans, and you can do your touch campaign. It's pretty awesome. And you can set up different ways to nurture your clients. And not only that, if you want to flesh out your downline and get more people to, if they're looking to become a realtor, to get them into your downline and have, so you can bring them aboard to Keller Williams. You can use these nurture campaigns. All of these are campaigns, and you can use those to bring people aboard. You can use it for your buyers. You can do it for your sellers. And when you do these bi-weekly neighborhood nurtures, anything that deals with people you've dealt with. If somebody signs up, let's say through your website, find a way to reach out with them to them. And new contract engagements, quarterly call plan, and even now, once in a blue moon, if I have downtime and I get nervous, my phone just go through somebody I haven't talked to that I've worked with. Either I sold them a house or sold their house for them. Maybe they're not even in Oregon anymore. I'll text them, hey, just checking up on you. I hope all is well. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is. Find a way to just reach out to people without being obnoxious, because I'm really good at that. It's a joke. You guys can laugh. It's okay. So are you familiar with building out your downline, bringing agents aboard for profit share? Okay. So you can actually use the nurture campaigns for agents that you've talked to, and just to remind them how awesome Keller Williams is. Truly is. I was with a different brokerage. No harm, no foul, nice people over there. I just wanted more. I wanted more education, more freedom, and more money. And ta-da, here we are. So you guys all chose a great brokerage to be with. So another thing is to talk to the other agents and tell them ask them if they're interested. Find your own way, find your own conversations. Again, with the conversation recordings, if you go over that and kind of role play with people so you can get used to those conversations to have with agents on the other side anytime you do business with them, and say, hey, I like to, if I leave a message, I like to let them know your message would sound better if you said you were with Keller Williams instead of, XYZ brokerage. But people know me and they know that that's my personality. So just always play to your personality, be who you are. Any questions, any conversation, anything you want to talk about?
So it's just when you write an offer, and if you were to send an offer that's lower the price, should you ask the listing agent first, like, do you think this gonna work? Or I don't know how much I should expose.
It depends on, um, it depends on your relationship with that other agent. When you're first starting out, if that's where your client is at, you represent the client. And the best thing that you can tell your client is, you understand we're writing a really low offer. We can only hope that the seller will want to play with us. You know, the seller will want to respond, because some sellers will say, I'm not ready to deal with any nonsense, so just ignore it, and they don't respond. So that is one of the conversations that you have to have with your client. Now, when you do your CMA as a buyer's agent, you're still going to research the properties. You're still going to do a CMA on that property. Now,
Mhm.
if it's priced right, you know, you can just send it over to the other buyer without selling out your client, saying, this is where my buyer, you know, this is my buy. You find your own words, because I don't want to step over anybody's toes, but you find your own words to basically say, this is not my idea, it's my buyer's idea, without selling out your buyer, because that you are their advocate. So you've
Mhm.
always got to put the buyer first. And one way I like to do things like that and still have integrity and, you know, stand up for my buyer, because that's my job. And that's what we do. That's why they came to me. That's why I
Mhm.
get paid to do what I do, is I will say, I really hope we can find a way to make this work.
Yeah.
And just by a sentence like that, when you give it, or when I receive that, that's an agent saying, you know, you know, I'm not criticizing the property. I'm not saying anyone's crazy. I'm saying I would really like to find a way to make this work, which is
Mhm.
true. And, you know, I've had buyers miss out on properties because they've come in too low, and the seller was offended and said, get out of here. And I've had sellers get anxious about buyers writing an offer, and then when we see it, we're like, get out of here. So, and all of this happens before you actually get to the negotiation table. When you, like, when you're showing houses vacant that you know that they're not going to buy, these are all part of the conversations you can have. Every interaction you have with your clients, it's getting them closer to understand what it is you do and why you do the things you do. Make sense?
Yeah, I find it's tricky sometimes, even if the house it's a decent house. They list it maybe a little higher, and then it sits for, let's say, 6 months, and it didn't sell until, you know, like they reduced the price probably last minute, and I think it's a proper price.
Mm-hmm.
Still, like the client wants a little lower, so I'm skeptical if I should like write that for them or.
Anytime you can write a deal, you have a better chance of getting a deal going on than if you don't write it.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think about it too much, because you're the advocate for your buyer.
Yeah.
And that's part of the job of being a realtor, is even though they lowered it, maybe they just finally lowered it close to where the market is at. You never know where that seller's at. And as a listing agent, you're not going to give up your seller either. So even if the price of the house has been reduced, but your buyers, write it. My thing is, write it anyway, because once you have something in writing, and it again opens that door, it may not go, or you may have to go back and forth a couple of times until you find that area of agreement.
Mm-hmm.
But name of the game is write that contract. One, you get experience writing it. Two, everything that you do is an opportunity to learn how to be better. And that is what sets us apart. We want to be the best person we can be. The only person I'm in competition with is myself. You know, so just don't, I have I've been known to overthink things. So I do work with a lot of great people that might smack me around once in a while and say, get out of it. You're overthinking it. Just do it. Just do it. Just get in there, write it, but get your CMA put together.
Mhm.
Look for 3 properties that are currently active that are comparable to this property and 3 that have closed that are comparable to that property. So, and then once you look at that data, look at it and say, are we even close? And when you're looking, look at the pictures on those homes. Look at how long they were on market before they sold. Does, some houses look great in the pictures, but then when you drive up, they're next to, a rowdy tavern or something. So
Uh-huh.
that's another thing to take into consideration. I've had people, clients, I started showing them houses here. We finally made it over to Grants Pass, showing properties there. And anytime that we find a property they like, if it is in any close proximity to a professional grow house, it's a no-go. Even if it's an $800,000 home that's just stunningly gorgeous, if we can't step outside and, get fresh air, then it's a no-go for them. So that's something else. Whenever you're looking at a property, because that's the question, why is it still on market? Well, because it smells right there. There's no getting away from it. So, that's something else to keep in mind. And again, I like, even if somebody sends me a rejection or they ignore the offer, I call the agent and say, I'm sorry, I hope we didn't offend anybody. Find find a way to communicate. How far off are we? Because I would really love to help you get your house sold. I'm sure the sellers want to get it sold. Are they dead set on the price? And you can ask some of these questions before you even write it. But guaranteed, most listing agents are going to say, just write it and let me do my job,
Yeah, I
Not,
agree.
hey, I know what the lowest they'll go is. Nobody does that. And that's what I let my clients know as well. If you were the seller, would you want me to tell them I know what your lowest is? Now they
Yeah.
can say something like, well, if you come up by 20, we might be able to make something happen. We still don't know if that extra 20 is their bottom or not.
Yeah. And it's kind of tricky too, because sometimes when they negotiate, these days it can be the BAC. So like
Mm-hmm.
probably gonna reduce it down. And then if I were to tell my client, like, hey, you have to come up with this money, like it's kind of awkward.
Yeah, but that's why you don't rush for an answer quickly. And you look for the best case scenario, and then you look for a plan on how to get there. That make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, if somebody wants you to write an offer, and especially if you don't have a lot of other things on your desk, write that offer and figure out how to make it work.
That's fair.
Sometimes you just can't get them to come together, but it's not a loss.
Yeah.
You've
At least you
gained
try.
experience, you've gotten closer to your clients, another agent gets to know who you are. And I'm going to tell you guys, anytime you see a broker's open pop up in your email, go to that broker's open, go shake hands, say hi to them, let them know who you are, where you are, get in those homes, start looking around. That's how you learn. I get so excited. So each day in Ignite, you grow in how you think, feel, act, and implement what you've learned from learning and ahas, you move towards achieving your big life. And that's what that's what we're here for, to fulfill our big goals. Have you guys set your goals? You don't have to answer me. Goal setting is big. I set little micro goals I try to every week. And on the weeks that I don't set my goals on Sunday, I go off the tracks, but I do squirrel a lot, and that's just me. Other people, I like shiny stuff. So other people, they stay on task all the time. So find ways that help you work to where you are, your performance just gets better and better and better. But always remember why you're doing it. You're not doing it for a paycheck. It's to be in real estate, to be your own boss. The state tells you these are the rules. Federally, these are the rules. Then in your brokerage with Keller, they make it very easy. These are the rules. And then the rest is, it's your business. Go fly. Go be the best realtor you can be. Whether you want to be a solo broker and, you know, you're good, you set your goals for, you know, 20 closings by the end of the year. Or if you want to, you know, hit it hard and get a team and start expanding, then do that. Find out where you want to be and then start working backwards. What steps will you take to get there? But if you go back to the MREA, that sets out a plan, a business model, and it's not just for real estate. If you know anybody who's in small business, tell them to pick up that book because it's a business model, a business plan. And if you do your best to stay on track with that, you're going to have proven results. It's a thing, it happens. Anyway, I'll stop preaching. So develop, I'll get back to business. Develop your transaction timelines, apply best practices to avoid risk, identify ways to follow up after closing to build your business. And when you leave today, think about what action you should take. Will you send a thank you card to an agent you recently worked with, create a more detailed timeline for your current transaction, input checklists into opportunities? So just think about, it's a lot of information today. So just take that and see what you've gathered out of it and what you can utilize in your own business and how it will project you forward. So taking the time to reflect on what you've learned is important in building your confidence and celebrating your growth. We'll do this activity after each learning session so you can keep track of your learning journey. Not just me, it's everybody in the network. Everybody makes themselves available. So that's a resource you don't always get in other brokerages. So take advantage of that. And so now we move to our important daily success system time where we work in our businesses together while we support one another. And is there any questions outside of timelines that you guys have that you can think of? So with the, do you guys have your daily success system? Any in mind? Do you guys journal or write things down on how you would like to be or where you'd like to take your business?
Business planning clinic, just did that.
Come again?
We just did the business planning clinic for.
Yeah. How did you like that?
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was really cool seeing the micro progression of like every goal that you needed to set for where you want to be.
Yeah, and break it down.
Yeah.
So with lead generation, do you guys have any questions on how to lead gen or what you're doing?
Email, text, call.
Okay,
fax,
so so no matter where you go, one of the best topics anyone could mention is real estate, because regardless to someone's idea, whether they're buying or selling, people want to know. People want to be in the know of what's going on in real estate. So if you're in line at the grocery store, you can fake a call that's a real estate call to see if anybody's listening. No matter where you go, drop off your business card, all the daily places you go. if you go to the bank, if you go to the grocery store, if you go to the car wash, if you, any place that you have transactions, don't be afraid to let them know that you're a realtor and you would love to be able to gain more clients. Find your own way to say that. But again, one of my favorites is just, hey, do you know of anyone who's looking, you know, to buy or sell that isn't already being represented? And, you know, the worst thing you could do is actively try to take somebody's client. I don't think you can steal clients, but then there is kind of a professional respect. And if somebody, I get a lot of people that call me and say, my sister's realtor is XYZ and they're not doing this, that, and the other. I don't ever want to get involved with that. But what I can do is say, this, you know, that's for your sister to discuss with her agent, the timelines of how that works, or these are questions that she should have with that realtor. Because we're just getting, you know, I don't have anything with that transaction. I don't know the quality of the home, anything else. So that's none of my business. And I've had listings on the last month of before they were to expire. I've had agents stick their card in the door and with a little note, please give me a call about this house, which is kind of, I guess if I wanted to, I could have pressed it and called the principal broker. But then again, can't blame anybody for looking for work. Just don't do that. That's in poor taste. And can get you smacked. But because, and even whenever you do flyers, you do need to have a disclaimer at the bottom that you're not soliciting for a listing, you're just giving them information. Other things that I've done, I've walked through Home Depot with one of my smaller signs, pretending to not know where the H-frames are. So everyone saw my name and my number. I'll leave my business cards where the for sale by owner signs are. Just little things, you know, it's not hurting anyone and it's not, I'm not leaving trash around. But anyway, so just, I can't say always, more often than not, I make only person that's going to let strangers know that I'm a realtor is me. So let people know you're a realtor, find conversation, know your market, any way you can. Get into a conversation with real estate because people love it. So know your numbers, know your data, go out there and share it with people.
I have a question because
Yes.
I've seen with at least the Eugene market, a lot of homes end up in trust nowadays or abandoned and in trust. Have you found any like niche way or any way to network in with those trusts or attorneys that are doing those trusts?
I haven't, and that's especially when you're dealing with attorneys. The best thing that you can do is if there's a resource that you can find that check with your county on divorces and death, then you can mail out. Or you can, you know, to the, let's say you go through the dailies that comes out of your courthouse on what's been recorded or what's been put in there, and you see someone's getting divorced, you can send a flyer to that address as an introduction. Hi, I'm Ray with Keller Williams, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to mention divorce. But you can say, if you have any questions regarding real estate, please give me a call. I'll be happy to help. Something along those lines. You can also go to the different attorneys' offices and ask the clerk, you know, their receptionist there, and speak to them directly.
Yeah, I might just be 30, but I was like hoping for there's hopefully an online format or Oregon Bar Association link that I was not aware of. But I mean, yeah,
Um,
that's a possibility too.
yeah, but so I have a client that likes to buy really, I mean, really, really beat up houses. And
Yeah.
he will buy them and he will flip them on his own. But he'll always get my opinion first. Where do you think this should be? So he'll
Mm.
buy something off of a tax lot, make sure he has clear title. He'll make structural repairs and clean out the debris and bring the tractor in and clean the ground. And then
Mhm.
he might sell it quickly in a week for, a profit of maybe $20,000, not including his labor. And it's still going to be below market price because somebody needs to come in and put in drywall, new flooring, check the plumbing, but he's got the shell cleaned up and ready to go. But he sends out what's known as the golden letter to people. Hi, I'm an investor. I can buy direct. We can close in 2 weeks. I have cash. And they will sell him these houses in the rural parts of Klamath County. So it's hard to
Yeah.
compare counties, but yeah, he'll pick things up for, $25,000, just little small 2 1s. And
Yeah.
then he'll sell that to an investor who wants to flip it. But
Okay.
if you can find somebody like that, but the moral of that story is have a golden letter, have a letter that you're ready to send out to people, drop off with your business card at any of the professional offices.
Hmm.
You could
Okay.
even, if you know anybody with traveling nurses or in the hospital, sometimes, they'll have doctors come in under contract for 3 years. They may want to buy a home. So there's
Mhm.
there's places to market yourself all over.
Okay.
Am I getting closer to your?
Yeah, that
Uh,
definitely answers what I want, where I was going.
yeah. And the neat thing is if you get into your county GIS maps
Mhm.
where you can get the tax ledger and everything else, that's
Yeah.
going to tell you who owns it, how long they've owned it, and who to mail a letter to. Mailing letters, you might send out 100 letters and you might get one solid client. That's good. You get that one solid client, which will lead to 2, which will lead to 4, which will lead to 8, and that's how it goes. And you
Yeah.
just give better service with each and every client. Now, keep in mind, some clients are going to be great clients, even though it may not be fun to work with them, but you can have an awesome professional relationship with. They do it this way. You kind of never bend your morals, but sometimes you have to work a little harder for less, but you'll get there.
Right.
Anybody
Yeah.
else? Yeah, marketing yourself, it's hard and it's easy in the same breath. So think to yourself, has your thinking changed? Or has your mindset changed at all throughout the entire Ignite? Is this really helping you get closer to goals and your successes, your personal successes? Don't have to answer that, but these are just food for thought. What do you feel differently about, and what was meaningful to you today? Also, how will your behaviors be different going forward? What actions will you take? We've kind of discussed all that. I go off point all the time, so forgive me if I'm repetitive. Um, so again, what tools, model systems will you use, and how will that make you accountable? Accountability is probably one of the hardest things. So whenever you work in a close-knit environment and you have a coach, or it doesn't even need to be a coach, just being in your office, and even if you're on a drop-in desk, you can hear the buzz around you and you can ask questions of those people. and everybody's there to support you. Of course, don't, if they're on a Zoom call or something, then don't walk in. But other than that, yeah, make yourself known. And again, go to as many broker opens, talk to those agents. If it's the listing agent, ask them, what can you tell me about the house? What, this is a beautiful home. I love this. I love that. Even if you're showing a home to a buyer and maybe it's decorated in, something like 1970s Brady Bunch, instead of saying, oh my God, this is dated, you can say, wow, this is really a timepiece. They've preserved this decade very well. So always look for the pretty words and the positive spin that you can put on things. It doesn't mean that you don't see flaws or imperfections. Decorating is one thing. Floors, foundations, walls, roof, and the mechanicals and the plumbing, that's mostly what you look at. And when you're looking at a house, let your buyers know they can look underneath the kitchen sink, the buyer's sink. They can, even if they've got kitchen drawers, you're not poking through the drawers, but are they functioning? That's going to tell you a lot. We have a lot of, it's very common to be selling 75 to 95-year-old homes here in Klamath Falls. So many kitchens, they might look really super cute, but check those drawers. They might be 80-year-old drawers that are a little sticky. Those are things that even when you're listing a home, walk through the home, flush the toilet, run the water, look under the sink, because you're representing that home to the best of your ability. Anyway, that just popped into my head, sorry. And then one thing that I do need to tell everybody before we go in regard to marketing, this part right here. The Do Not Call List and Telephone Consumer Protection Act. So please make yourself very familiar with this, and this is what I need to tell you. If you're making any calls to your sphere and people in your database, before you make any calls or texts, please remember to honor the TCPA and do not call lists, including those of your market center and state. If you have any questions or concerns about this, please consult your market center or attorney to ensure compliance. Refer to the pages at the beginning of your participant guide for more details. These guidelines are for your protection as well as for the protection of your clients. Let's review the importance of the Telephone Consumer Protection Act and the do not call restrictions for when you make calls or texts to your database. Turn to the pages in your participant guide and let's go over this. You can go over that on your own, but it's very, very important because nobody wants to get fined, and you definitely don't want your brokerage to get spanked because it's a real thing. I know. What a bummer towards the close of the call, right? So anyway, I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in relationship with me. So even when you're doubting yourself and you're like, what's going on? Tell this to yourself. Make a copy of it, take a screenshot, put it on a little sticky note on your desk. Just have those conversations. Talk about real estate. People love talking about houses. And if you love talking about houses, then it's a win-win. You're going to get your database. You're going to get your people. And it's going to happen. And as far as your database, if you're from the area and you grew up in that area, talk to the people. If you're still in contact with people you went to high school, college with, reach out, let them know where you're at. Right? Send, if they're in your phone, just send them a text. Hey, I'm with Keller Williams. Do you know of anybody who might be looking to buy a house? Do you know anybody who might be looking to sell a house? And don't hit people over the head. Just, and you can say, hey, how you doing? Life's going great. I don't know if you know or not, but I'm now a realtor with Keller Williams, yada, yada. So I'd appreciate if you know of anybody. What's your business? If I have anyone I can send there, I will. Find your own conversations. What feels comfortable? and practice it every day to where it comes out naturally. And I'll tell you one quick story that I lost out years ago. I lost out on a listing, and it was all set up, but I was too chicken to knock on that guy's door to say, hey, such and such sent me over because they said you wanted to list the house. Never followed up. And within a couple of weeks, I saw somebody else's sign out in front. And from that point forward, I realized that I needed to get over that shyness, and I needed to get over the rejection. What if this guy says, no, I never said that? Well, now it's like, oh, I'm so sorry for the miscommunication. You have a great day. But if you know of anybody who's looking to buy or sell, I'd appreciate that lead. And it's just being honest without being too in your face. But that's, it's your business. You're not going to get spoon fed. You need to go out there and grab it. And that's important. But I didn't tell you the true vernacular of that conversation because this is being recorded. So okay. Any other questions or anything right now? Does anyone want to play like knock knock, like I'm a stranger and you're going to ask me, or I'm going to ask you, or you guys, have you done any role play before? Well, this is also good. If you're in an office environment, or if you have a roommate or a mate, and just to get used to saying of how you want to present yourself in that conversation with somebody. So I'm not gonna push you guys on that, but just prepare yourself and determine how you want to do your business. Take action when you can connect with people through conversation, and this is your most valuable activity, building relationships with people in your database, and takes up most of your lead generation time. That's making the calls, sending out the letters, being in social events, networking even on Facebook. Look for business networking groups where they might have a monthly or weekly meetup. The Chamber of Commerce, you can sit in. You don't have to join right away. You can just, I don't know if KWM Medford is part of the chamber, but if so, you can sit in at any time. You can go in and, just let people know that you're there. That's the biggest part. Just let them know that you're there. And then when you do have a client, let's say you get a new buyer, just instead of just automating what comes up on the MLS, you'll find it on the MLS and then text it to them. Hey, what do you think of this one? Even if it's not exactly right, you want to keep that communication, so if it's just close, send it out anyway. Anyway, I think this is the fastest I've ever gotten through a class. You guys have any successes that you want to talk about? And a success could just be, hey, I got this far on my command, or I had a conversation I was happy about. This is when we can share with everybody else and start getting that feeling of talking about you're a realtor and this is your business. Anyone?
I mean, getting over that self-doubt is a big one. I think.
Oh, or the days that you've been doing this for years, but you wake up and you're like, I'm such a fraud. Do I really know? Because the market is shifting and it will shake you. And that's when you get into the mirror and you go, no, I am a realtor. I know my data. I know what I do. I know this. And yeah, it's hard, but not, you know, that's part of life. And it's as hard as we make it. And when you especially lean in on the books like Shift, or you can go, you can get it online, you can go to the Facebook group on Shift, and you learn how to maneuver through markets. Markets are always going up and down.
Right.
But yeah, you can do it. If anybody can, you can do it. I
Or
wouldn't.
read it at the office. We all have books at the office, don't we?
Yeah. So, Mason, what about you?
I just got my license like 2 weeks ago. I'm just kind of feeling like trying to get anything I can, learning, listening.
Well, that's a success because it's not easy getting your license. You know,
Thank you.
because what you read in the books and everything is not necessarily how the test goes.
Yeah.
So congratulations. That's
Thank you.
huge, and welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's awesome. And Alex, what about you?
Just my I got the buyer to sign the buyer rep agreement on Friday. That was my success this last week.
Yay.
Yeah. So don't say just, because that's a big deal. That's a big deal to get a buyer agreement. So good on you. Bo?
I just sent off an offer earlier today, but hopefully we get the house. It's kind of lower.
Yeah, no, but it's exciting. You
Yeah.
know, and it's a great opportunity to learn, you know, how do we get this to happen? And
Mhm.
one of my favorite things to tell people is I don't want to see an offer die on my desk. You know, what can we do to keep this thing, to keep it going until we reach an agreement?
Mhm.
You know, but in the end, it's not about me. It's what my buyer wants me to do, but they are taking advice from me. Does that make
Because-
sense?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because this morning I called them. I know they like this house, but it's over their budget. And then I called them and they're like, I don't think we can make it because the monthly payment gonna be so tight on us. And they have like 2-year-old and they also want to travel. And then they talked to me and then they asked me, what do I think? So I just said, well, because the price is actually pretty good for that listing and the tax is high. And then they're like, we don't know if we can pay for this price right now. And then I mentioned to them like, well, the price of the property gonna go up anyway. Like if you want to buy something cheaper now, and if you were to buy something more expensive, like next year you would not be able to, no matter how much you save, you can't buy this property because the price is gonna go up. And
Yeah.
then 10 minutes after, they called me and they're like, I think it makes sense. We just want to write an offer. So I'm like, whoa, that's so out of the blue. So
That's
a little
awesome. But you
success,
did all the
but-
right steps because you presented them with what the situation is and let them think it over. You know,
Mhm.
and that's what people want. They want your advice. They don't want to be told what to do, and they don't want too many options. They just
Mhm.
want to know what's going on in the market. How can we get into that house?
Yeah. Then yeah, I was like, okay, it's okay. We can just move on. We'll find the right house. You don't have to rush. And then they just call back. So that's
I
something to
love
say.
it. I love it.
Thank you.
And Kendra, what about you?
I have a appointment tomorrow with a buyer, and so I'm hopefully going to get that one signed. He is pretty set and ready to go, but we're just going to have that appointment. I have a potential appointment on Wednesday. He's out of town, but he was saying he is kind of flying all around. So he's like, maybe on Wednesday I can like squeeze in some time. So potential there. And then I guess in terms of appointments, that's kind of what I have going on this week. And then hopefully I'll get some more going from like my cold calling and door knocking.
Door knocking. Wow, you are a brave one.
Oh, I haven't actually done it yet. So this is like the first week that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And I'm also pretty new to the industry as well. So just trying to find what works for me.
Yeah, and but I will tell you, door knocking, because it's face to face, unless they have that no solicitor, you can also, I don't know if you've done this, but get little flyers or the little door hangers.
Yeah.
And if they don't knock because stranger danger, then just leave that flyer on the doorknob.
Yeah.
You
I have
know?
some door hangers right now.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. That's all you've got to do. Awesome.
excited.
That's wonderful.
Thank
So
you.
do you guys have any additional questions for me or anything, any way that I can help?
I went door knocking this last weekend when I had an open house, and I saw a bunch of no soliciting signs. And is it okay to knock and invite them to the open house, not try to sell, or would you just not knock at all with this no soliciting?
I would not knock at all, but I would put an invitation like in the door jamb, or if you have a door hanger, because that is a great way to get the neighborhood into the house. And it's smart.
Yeah, I noticed that in Forest Grove, that's where I was. Like 90% of the homes had no soliciting signs. It was a newer neighborhood too, so that
Yeah.
could be it. The newer homes come with the signs or something.
And in an area like that, if it's cool with your seller, you can put an open house sign out with a little invitation box. So you put the open house sign in front of the house, and when people get out, then you would have an invitation flyer. Thank you for, or you're cordially invited to our open house on Sunday between 1 and 3, whatever the date is. That would be the 16th. Something to that extent, and let them know, and then they can take the invitation with them in an area where there's a lot of the no soliciting. And like at my house, I have the no soliciting, and I also have a sign on my door that says do not knock, a few expletives, because I have two very large Labradors that want to go through the window when people knock on the door. I'm not antisocial. My dogs are rambunctious. So, but that's a nice way, and it does work. So no one's going to go knock on the door. When they see the open house sign, you have it spelled out, grab an invitation, something is your sign in the ground, or are you doing an open
No,
house for somebody else?
yeah, it was for somebody else. I was just
Yeah.
hosting an open house for another agent in the firm or in
Yeah.
the office.
Yeah. Do as many of those as possible, because you learn so much by each person that comes in and asks you questions. It gets the mind working. And so then the next time you're asked that question, you're that much more prepared because you're well versed in it. But if you're doing another open house, find out if you can put out a sign with invitations. So people all through, people are always curious. And I'm going to tell you, sometimes on a Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday afternoon, like a 4 to 6, you'll catch a lot of the moms and dads dropping off their kids or picking them up. And it's a nice weekday time to get people that are busy on the weekends and can't do open houses. Just an idea.
Hmm.
But on that note, we're coming up to our 2-hour mark. And I want to say thank you for joining me and listening to me. And again, I am Laura Knight. I'm with Keller Williams, Southern Oregon in Klamath Falls. And anytime you guys have questions, you can just go ahead and reach out. My text, if you wanted to text me, it is 541-331-1729. Or if you wanted to friend me on Facebook and they have DMs, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Now, unless it's a principal broker question, because then I could get in big trouble. But if it's on marketing or just how do I say something, I'm good at that.
Can you repeat your phone number again? 541
541 331 1729.
Thank you, Laura.
You're so welcome. And once again, Laura Knight. And I just wish the very best for you. We're going into a new year with new stuff coming. So yeah, it's going to be good.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you guys.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good one.